What if the meat in your refrigerator is a barcoded ticking time bomb instead of dinner? This October, federal inspectors discovered Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli in 6 different meats that were taken off the shelves of Walmart, Costco, and Aldi. Bacteria, as well as pieces of metal, concealed in sealed packaging that Americans trusted. This year, tainted meat has already sent more than 100 individuals to hospitals nationwide, some of whom will never return home. How many more people continue to ingest these silent murderers in the mistaken belief that they are safe? And what does it say about the food system that is supposed to safeguard you if this can get past the entrances of the largest supermarket chains in the country? The truth becomes personal in this devastating story. Additionally, 6 meats that were plucked off store shelves are having their plastic wrap removed today. Don't freak out just yet. Before the next mouthful betrays you, you'll also learn safer alternatives at the end of each session to safeguard your table. 1. Oscar Mayer. This October, Oscar Mayer turkey bacon has been wiped off the shelves at Walmart, Costco, and Aldi, and the quiet surrounding it is as loud as a midnight factory alarm. Following the discovery of Listeria monocytogenes, an unseen saboteur that preys on elderly immune systems like a thief at a busy bus stop, federal inspectors removed more than 367,000 pounds of these vacuum-sealed slices from distribution. The source of the pollution was a slicing plant in Kentucky, where mold clung to vents like gray cobwebs that no one dared to sweep, and humidity trickled from ceiling pipes like chilly sweat. With packs dated from mid-July to early September, the recall was implemented in every state. Nonetheless, the notification was concealed on Kraft Heinz's corporate website as though it were a clandestine family secret. It would be like learning that the clearance sale toaster also comes with a side of electrocution for someone on a fixed income who thought they were purchasing a tiny luxury and then discovering they took home a biological booby trap. The company's rap sheet reads like the journal of a repeat offender, if you believe this is a one-time occurrence. Millions of pounds of turkey bacon rotted before its best-by dates, transforming refrigerators throughout the country into miniature meat mortuaries. And the same brand once mispackaged allergen-filled cheese dogs under classic Wiener's labels, leading to a recall of almost 100,000 pounds. Until the recent Listeria-triggered recall in July erupted into a class action lawsuit in Florida, accusing Kraft Heinz of hiding hazards and creating obstacles to refunds in order to prevent customers without receipts. That trail of rot never truly ended. It just went quiet. It validated the fears of many. This is a firm that was caught red-handed, not caught off guard. Beneath the glossy advertisements of happy breakfasts lies a machine that uses the same dull blade to grind both meat and morals. As if they were giving cadavers a new haircut, whistleblowers told Bloomberg they were taught to shave off rotten layers from turkey logs and then re-slice them. It was alleged that, similar to used car dealers rolling back odometers, new expiration labels were slapped onto returned packages. Conveyor belts with dirt slits, mildew growing around vents, and line speeds so fast that senior temporary employees fell during their shift or stumbled home with torn wrists were all reported by USDA inspectors. 18 workers were hospitalized in one ammonia leak without ever receiving protective gear. It's no better for the birds either. Inspectors left the scene in the middle of their shift after seeing undercover footage of turkeys being kicked, thrashed, and thrown alive into grinders. The crucial ingredient in your heart-healthy turkey bacon is that. For elderly Americans who are struggling financially, learning that their breakfast is made from illness, dishonesty, and human suffering is like learning that their amiable local butcher has been working as a Bond villain. It's betrayal wrapped in cellophane, masquerading as comfort, playing Russian roulette with your body in silence while humming a cheerful melody. Businesses that at least attempt to treat employees and animals like living beings rather than replacement parts, like Applegate Naturals, Welshire, D'Artagnan, or Neiman Ranch, are good options if you still yearn for bacon without the corporate side of moral decay. Making a different decision could prevent your breakfast from feeling like a loaded gun aimed at your plate, but it won't repair the harm Oscar Mayer has caused. Second place, market side prowls in the market. Walmart's chili aisles resemble the traditional butcher from the neighborhood. Happy labels, clean trays that give you a smug, farm-fresh smile. Behind the glass, however, is a manufacturing line that gives the impression that horror movies are clean. Produced by Fresh Realm for Walmart under the Market Side brand, These chicken fettuccine Alfredo meals were recalled this summer when Listeria monocytogenes found their greasy fingerprints throughout their supply chain. In 13 states, 17 Americans were confirmed infected. 16 of them were hospitalized, 3 were buried, and 1 unborn child died. A deadly toll concealed in the comfort-serving plastic trays. There was no sudden appearance of the bacterium. The identical virus has been lurking in a Fresh Realm facility since March, according to federal investigators, like a loaded rifle left on the counter while dinner was being set. The bodies contradict the company's claims that those early tainted lots never made it to the shelves. What about the notification of recall? While senior consumers on limited incomes continued to put those meals in their carts, believing they were purchasing convenience, it was hidden so deep on corporate websites that you would think it was an embarrassing love letter rather than a public health emergency. Not a disaster, but there is more rot here than just one bad batch. News about food safety that went bad was revealed by whistleblowers. Before being resealed and sent out again, shipments were often retrimmed, their slimy, discolored layers shaved off like a fresh haircut for a corpse. Broken refrigeration units have been sitting dead for weeks, according to internal emails from Fresh Realm supervisors that were hacked. Staff members were instructed to move more quickly so that meals would be served before they smelled. One Fresh Realm plant was described by USDA inspectors as an uncontained petri dish, with workers cleaning chicken on the same countertops, where raw beef was piled like wet library books, blades covered with congealed fat, and blood puddled beneath cutting tables. However, the branding continued to chirp, market side, as though a bacterial swamp could be cleaned up by a cheerful font. It's the kind of jovial dishonesty that has you wondering whether the marketing crew doubles as stage magicians, using the dazzle to divert your attention while stealthily severing your safety. Furthermore, the moral decline extends well beyond the safety of food. Fresh Realm's contract plants relied on older immigrant laborers who were hired through hiring agencies, given cash under the table, refused benefits, and then thrown aside following accidents like broken tools, according to reports from the Center for Investigative Reporting. According to a number of elderly women, supervisors made fun of them for slowing down as they made them work 12-hour shifts in sub-zero temperatures till their fingertips turned blue. In addition to being fined for preventing OSHA inspectors from entering a plant where a worker lost 3 fingertips due to a malfunctioning slicer, the company has quietly settled at least 4 wage theft lawsuits. This culture isn't one of oops. In order to keep Walmart's shelves supplied with what appears to be Sunday supper, this industrial meat grinder, masquerading as a kitchen, is gnawing away at both flesh and dignity. Therefore, it's really just corporate necromancy when that happy market-side logo glows from its shrink wrap, promising warmth and family. The drag of wholesomeness is used to decorate rejected meat that has been raised from the dead. It is not only dishonesty, but also predatory behavior for elderly Americans who want to extend their Social Security benefits. It's similar to purchasing what appears to be grandma's casserole only to discover, when you bite into it, that she has been replaced with a broken vending machine that never cleans its hands. Look for companies like Mary's Free Range, Bell & Evans, Coleman Natural, or Heritage Foods USA if you want chicken that won't endanger your life or ruin someone else's. Businesses that at least make an effort to respect their employees and their birds like living creatures rather than as consumable raw resources. Third place, Cargill. Like a polished Wall Street banker moonlighting at a country fair, Cargill walks through America's meat aisles, smiling for the crowd and stealthily passing rotten IOUs under the table. Despite providing a significant portion of the country's beef supply, this empire's name continues up in government recall notifications like a persistent nightmare you can't shake. USDA inspectors discovered that material marked for segregation had been covertly reincorporated into manufacturing, leading to the removal of more than 16,000 pounds of Cargill ground beef from Walmart freezers just last year. E was the declared danger. Coli 0157:H7 is a tiny wrecking ball that can cause organ failure in an elderly person before you can say medium rare. It's difficult to overlook the fact that this same organization has a resume full of previous carnage, even though no deaths were confirmed in this batch. E required hundreds of thousands of pounds. Coli pollution, including epidemics that buried the unfortunate and sent the sick to the hospital. Cargill's whisper, which he says out of caution, sounds like an arsonist boasting that he replaced your curtains after setting your house on fire. Furthermore, this was a hallmark maneuver rather than a lone slip. Workers at Cargill's operations must chop through hundreds of corpses every hour while surrounded by flying meat shrapnel like confetti at a corporate wake and showered in blood mist, while their deboning lines run at rates that make NASCAR pit crews appear leisurely. In just the last several years, OSHA records show that these plants have caused over 1,000 serious injuries. Hands twisted into claws, crushed spines, and cut fingers serve as reminders of the price of consistent income. Desperate for a final paycheck, several of these workers were older hires who stumbled out with wheelchairs rather than pay. Cargill's factory floors were compared by Human Rights Watch to a conveyor belt of human debris. Try visualizing the number of people buried behind your burger, if you believe that to be exaggerated. However, the picture isn't only the human damage. From beginning to end, their supply chain smells like decay. Cargill was linked by investigations to Brazilian beef suppliers who were found to be employing forced labor on property that had been burned and chainsawed out of the Amazon rainforest. Executives at Cargill pretended not to notice the symbolic smoke rising from the boots of their suppliers, playing the wide-eyed innocence card. Cheats from the pre-Porcimo Forine watchdog groups were also discovered to be deceitfully advertising beef and turkey goods as being raised antibiotic-free closer to home, even when tests revealed germs resistant to antibiotics scuttling through samples like tiny cockroaches at a buffet in Las Vegas. It's such a blatant bait and switch that it makes a carnival game that has been rigged appear legitimate. The packaging contributes to the scam as well. From Walmart shelves, their vacuum-sealed bricks gleam like glowing crimson monuments to life. However, they might as well be considered a betrayal. Before being compelled to admit it due to public outcry, this same corporation experimented with pink slime, lean, finely textured beef, scraped from scraps, blasted with ammonia, and inserted into ground beef without proper labeling. Cargill has been sued by supermarket chains and even McDonald's for allegedly collaborating to control beef prices, manipulating the market like a casino house that always wins as seniors bet their grocery money. All the while, the PR staff is waving flags of sustainability. Purchasing Cargill beef is like hiring a sweet-smiled babysitter who will empty your medication cupboard for senior Americans who are attempting to stretch their Social Security payments. Until you see the blood on their shoes and the vacant eyes, it feels safe. While manufacturing collapses, they silently deplete the workers who cut the meat and the consumers who consume it by creating the appearance of comfort. Look for companies like Strauss Brands, White Oak Pastures, Joyce Farms, or Snake River Farms if you want to avoid having your supper on the ICU guest list. Businesses that, at the very least, act as though their cows aren't frozen in lawsuits and created on corporate spreadsheets. Fourth place, Chomps. Chomps positions itself as the sheriff of clean protein and stomps onto store shelves like a swaggering cowboy wearing a shiny white hat. However, something much more repulsive has been lurking in plain sight inside those plastic holsters. More than 29,000 pounds of mild snacks, the company's original beef stick, were recalled from stores earlier this year after federal inspectors verified what two appalled consumers had previously discovered with their teeth. Inside the meat were metal fragments that resembled miniature landmines. As if expiration dates could scare the steel out of beef, each vacuum-sealed stick had lot code 25216 and was stamped with the cheery best by February 10th, 2026. The government's method of saying that this could kill someone was to classify the recall as Class 1. The message was obvious, even though no one had yet bled for it. With barbed wire in place of bullets, Chomps had transformed munching into Russian roulette. However, the visible shrapnel in a much larger implosion is metal shards. Whistleblowers describe production floors of the smokehouse factory of Fresh Realms in Idaho, where Chomps is born, seeming more like demolition derbies than food factories. The same gloved hands were said to have thrown sticks back into hoppers after they had fallen onto slippery pavement, scattering raw meat all over the place. Former managers acknowledged that, in order to prevent inventory losses, mold-flecked beef logs were shaved, spiced, and rebatched into new batches. Putting mothballs inside a corpse and praying no one requests an open casket visitation is the culinary equivalent of that. with line quotas so strict that employees hardly had time to blink, let alone clean the stainless steel tables where grease clung like old sins. Speed was the only religion practiced there. Calculated risk is the foundation of this assembly line. The earnings will have cleared before the lawsuits come in, even if a few customers are harmed. Furthermore, the branding exudes sanctimony, whilst the factories exude disorder. Buzzwords like grass-fed, keto, Whole30 approved, and, at one point, carbon neutral are used to promote Chomps. Until this February, when the Better Business Bureau ordered them to abandon all of their environmental claims due to a lack of proof. Consumer watchdogs have also raised concerns about their protein content, discovering that some batches, inflated with inexpensive binders and sold at premium rates, only contain about 2/3 the protein specified on the label. This implies that older Americans on fixed incomes are purchasing something more akin to sawdust, with a beef flavor at steakhouse costs. The ethical aftertaste is even more bitter than when you buy a brand new Cadillac and open the hood to discover a wheezing hamster on a rusting wheel. Only the hamster is coughing, and no one has lubricated the bearings. Some of Chomps' suppliers have been linked by investigations to squalid South American feedlots that are notorious for exploiting child labor during slaughter seasons and making older workers perform double shifts without boots and ankle-deep blood. Chomps maintains they had no information or speed, despite many complaints accusing those vendors of leaving workers with diseases so bad that one man lost half his foot, as though the morally pure beef fairy had just parachuted healthy meat into their mixing vats. That bright neon clean protein label might as well read anarchy in a casing for elderly buyers who are trying to maintain their health. It's a treachery disguised as a wellness suit over a biohazard skeleton, covered in rustic fonts. Look for companies like Vermont Smoke and Cure, Country Archer, Field Trip, or True Story Foods if you want real protein that won't jeopardize your health or the humanity of others. Businesses that at least appear to be aware of their ethical stance. Fifth, foods that are ready and fresh. Fresh and ready food sits in shop coolers like a well-dressed brunch guest with impeccable manners. But danger waits behind those neat wrappers. It doesn't knock, it leaps. The FDA linked their San Fernando factory to a deadly Listeria monocytogenes outbreak earlier this year after the pathogen was discovered, squatting on their sandwich line equipment like a silent saboteur. 86 products that are ready to eat. They quickly grabbed items from Costco, hospital cafeterias, airport kiosks, and office break rooms in 4 states, including pasta snack packs and turkey sandwiches. 1 person never returned, and 10 ended up in hospital beds. Instead of simply floating in like dust, the germs matched the strain identified inside those patients' gene, 4 gene, demonstrating that the sandwiches were more loaded weapons than food. The recall of Fresh and Ready, however, came out with all the urgency of a courteous cough. There was a lot of corporate praying that no one would link their hospital wristbands to a turkey wrap, a few news releases, and no shelf signage. However, germs are only a garnish on this poison dish. Production rooms were described by former workers as feeling more like refrigerators, sweatshops rather than food establishments, where employees used paper towels so black they seemed burnt to wipe down counters, and humidity poured from ceiling vents onto open trays of ham. To conserve space, raw and cooked meats were put together, such as rat poison next to grandma's heart medication, because the cabinet was overflowing. As the meat subtly warmed into bacterial playgrounds, a whistleblower told NPR that managers merely fabricated the digital temperature logs rather than making any necessary corrections when cooling systems failed. This is sporadic carelessness. Regulators will be blind to the dangers of this gambling-based business model. Furthermore, the true deterioration is etched into the workforce itself if you continue to peel back the plastic. According to LA Times investigations, Fresh and Ready relies on older migrant workers who are employed by subcontractors, paid slightly more than the minimum wage, and aren't given even the most basic breaks throughout 12-hour stints. After succumbing to dehydration, an older employee reported waking up to superiors shouting, "Get up or get out." Amputations from unprotected slicers are documented in OSHA documents, with severed fingers being handled like broken machine components. Whistleblowers who spoke up were barred from future temporary employment. It's an organization that wrings every last bit of life out of its employees and then throws them away like rotting ham ends chewing up human endurance as nonchalantly as it chews up turkey breast. Even their branding seems like a cunning jab at senior citizens. Fresh and Ready seems like a reliable shortcut, packaged in cellophane, something you can safely grab between doctor's appointments. However, products that were relabeled and resold more than 10 days after their use-by dates were discovered by consumer watchdogs. This means that the deli sandwich may be older than the grandchild you are seeing. Those cheerful placards for picnic tables may just as easily be hospital beds. It's similar to purchasing a retirement plan, only to find out later that it's nothing more than mayonnaise-soaked Monopoly money. Additionally, trusting this brand feels more like shaking hands with someone who is concealing a dagger behind their back than it does like purchasing lunch for older Americans struggling to make ends meet on fixed incomes. Choose companies like Dystal, North Country Smokehouse, Peterson's Natural Farms, or Porter Road if you desire convenience without sacrificing your health or the humanity of others. Businesses that at least pretend that food safety is a requirement rather than an extra. 6. Fratelli Beretta/Bussetto. With their charcuterie trades smirking at gold-lettered labels and photoshopped beauty images of Italy, Fratelli Beretta and its U.S. subsidiary, Bussetto, saunter down the aisles of Costco and Sam's Club like nobles in satin capes. However, beneath that Tuscan illusion is a reality that smells more like something that died beneath the floors than rosemary. Just last year, state labs and USDA inspectors discovered Salmonella and 4 I colons lurking within unopened packs like tuxedoed assassins waiting to strike, tearing more than 11,000 pounds of their charcuterie meats, prosciutto, soppressata, dry coppa, and Italian salami from stores. Some of the epidemic types were resistant to various antibiotics, which means that even the miraculous medications on older Americans' nightstands might not save them. In addition, 104 people in 33 states fell ill, and 27 ended up in hospital beds. However, as the trays continued to glow under store lights like ticking biological time bombs being offered 2 for 1, the recall notification crept stealthily into corporate websites. Furthermore, the Salmonella incident was the curtain slipping on a theater of rot, not an isolated incident. Recent FDA audits depicted Beretta's New Jersey facility as a hideous cross-contamination circus. Workers were told to simply wipe off the moisture raining from ceiling vents over ready-to-eat meats with the same rags used to mop blood off the floor, while raw pork balanced over completed salami like a bacterial waterfall. When whistleblowers reported seeing maggots wriggling in grease traps, they were instructed to remove them in order to maintain output. The area smelled like old pennies and terror, according to a former QA inspector who spoke to Bloomberg. Perhaps poetic, but terrifyingly true. Additionally, each thin slice of these meats is like a casino chip placed on the roulette wheel of your immune system because they are consumed straight from the pack without being cooked to kill any hidden dangers. Beneath that stench of decaying pomp is an equally filthy labor structure. Labor rights organizations revealed how Beretta's U.S. subcontractors mainly depend on elderly, frequently illegal immigrant workers who are enticed by promises of stable pay and then forced to perform 12-hour shifts without overtime, health care, or breaks. When they were unable to keep up, several of them reported being fired without severance after slashing until their wrists turned into claws. Following several amputations from unprotected slicers, OSHA punished the facility for repeated violations, and it was reported that the corporation forced injured workers to sign liability agreements in unreadable English. It's more of a meat cult that consumes human flesh to maintain its Instagram-worthy charcuterie boards than an employer. What about the branding? Irony flows from it so thickly that you might use it to glaze a ham. The packaging boasts about family history while concealing a brutal supply chain. Due to procurement from European farms that were found to be flogging pigs with metal rods and letting them rot alive in their enclosures, Beretta has been mentioned in lawsuits. Undercover images of workers chopping off pieces of live hogs were so graphic that they allegedly brought tears to the eyes of seasoned USDA inspectors. Finding out that their pricey salami originates from a conveyor belt of pain is like discovering their favorite opera for senior Americans who are merely want to enjoy a little affordable pleasure. With its betrayal chopped thin and adorned with rosemary, Singer Moonlights is a hitman. Every beautifully arranged Beretta tray isn't a snack for anyone on a fixed income. It's a Trojan horse full of diseases, suffering, and corporate disdain for those who sustain their financial success. It's the kind of luxury that makes you flinch in an emergency department waiting room as the company celebrates its quarterly profits in Tuscany. Look to Smoking Goose, Listeria, Olympia Provisions, or Creminelli if you want cured meats without the side order of sorrow, brands that at least claim to have a hygienic legacy. Subscribe right away before the next mouthful betrays you. The truth kicks down the door first because it won't knock. I appreciate you staying to the very end. To ensure you don't miss our daily content, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you found this video useful. Feel free to now see some of the best and most recent videos that are currently displayed on your screen. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.